This video tells the story of the courageous fighting by Hall's battery while on West McPherson Ridge on the morning of Day 1. Racing to the aid of Buford's cavalry, they duel with rebel batteries before being nearly overrun by Confederates subtly emerging from the railroad cut and by Davis's regiments who have driven back their supporting First Corps infantry. The video is extracted from over 40 hours of animation, covering the entire Gettysburg battlefield on July 1st and 2nd. For more information about this acclaimed work, visit the website referenced above. Moving between General Reynolds' First Corps brigades of Cutler and Meredith, the 2nd Maine Battery B, better known as Hall's Battery, in part of Wainwright's Artillery Battalion, approaches Gettysburg from the south along the Emmitsburg Road. At the Corderi Farm, the column of General Wadsworth's 1st Division swings into the fields and heads north toward the Lutheran Seminary grounds and Seminary Ridge. They have orders to reinforce General Buford's cavalry, who has been heavily engaged with Henry Heath's division of Hill's Corps, whose infantry and artillery are attacking from the west. As the head of the First Corps column was navigating the swale between Seminary Ridge to the east and McPherson Ridge to the west, Davis's regiments of Heath's division were successfully pushing back the cavalry regiments of Gamble and Devon north of the Chambersburg Pike. The left two Confederate regiments, the 2nd and 42nd Mississippi, pushed toward the ridge's crest and victory, but when they arrived there, they received a big surprise. Cutler's brigade had taken up a position with the 56th Pennsylvania and 76th New York directly to Davis's front. At the same time, Hall was starting up the east slope of Seminary Ridge. He was ordered to come forward at a trot, closing the gap with Cutler's infantry column at the front of the line, as previously noted. The battery came tearing and galloping along toward the ridge's crest and broke through Cutler's column, forcing the 147th New York to stop in its tracks and remain behind as the two leading regiments, the 76th New York and the 56th Pennsylvania, moved on. Paying little heed to the infantry column, Hall raced his battery into the swale and then onto the broad crest of the ridge. While under fire from Pegram's guns, they swung left into battery and dropped trail. Hall didn't notice the railroad cut was only 20 yards beyond his right piece. He immediately opened on the enemy batteries on Hare Ridge, 1,300 yards to his front. It was about 10 a.m. Hall reported that the duel with them lasted for more than a half an hour. When the 147th New York entered the fight, it was initially about 35 yards behind the extension of the line of Hall's battery to the left, and ahead of the 56th and 76th Pennsylvania to the right. They moved up the back slope of the ridge, and at the crest, the left of the 147th was close to the railroad cut, on the opposite side of which was Hall's right section. Colonel Miller of the 147th saw enemy flags about 150 yards to his front and to his right. As the 42nd Mississippi shifted to the north, the fire in the front of the 147th slackened slightly. Miller then saw a rebel skirmish line moving toward the rail fence along the railroad cut and firing into Hall's right section. He ordered companies A and C to advance and take some pressure off Hall's sections. From the time Hall deployed, his right sections had been shooting at the infantry and skirmishers, while the left section fired toward the enemy artillery. But soon another threat materialized on the right, when additional Mississippians approached under the cover of the unfinished railroad cut to within 60 yards of Hall's right guns. Hall quickly swung the right and center sections of his battery further to the right and immediately began throwing double-shotted canister loads into the ranks of the 42nd Mississippi. The Confederates broke off their attack, withdrawing to the shelter of the cut. But Hall felt dread when he saw his infantry support, the 56th Pennsylvania and the 76th New York, breaking for the rear. While the 147th New York was courageously staying put on Hall's right, they were being surrounded by the 42nd and 2nd Mississippi, threatening both the regiment and Hall's battery. Hall had no choice but to withdraw, beginning with his most vulnerable guns first, specifically Ulmer's right section. He ordered it to fall back 75 yards, drop trail, and cover the withdrawal of the other 4 guns. But Hall didn't know that the 55th North Carolina was already far beyond his right. Ulmer's section began to withdraw, but Davis's units north of the railroad bed kept pace with the retreating guns, peppering the battery section. Small arms fire from the 2nd Mississippi and 55th North Carolina killed or disabled 4 horses from one of the gun teams. The gunners had to drag the gun off by hand, but were now not able to undertake the assignment to cover the retreat of the other 4 guns. Bradley Gottfried, in his book The Artillery of Gettysburg, writes, quote, Hall quickly devised an alternative plan. Not wanting to jeopardize the limbers, he ordered them to reverse, causing them to face town. The guns were attached and opened fire as the horses slowly pulled the guns to safety. Unquote. With virtually all of his infantry support gone, Hall knew the time had come to get out. But a stout fence between the Chambersburg Pike and the railroad cut mandated that the withdrawal route be across a strip of land between these 2 features. But some newly arrived support was just in time to save Hall. Buford, taking notice of Hall's predicament, ordered 1 gun of Caliph's battery, now at the seminary, back to enfilade the railroad cut now occupied by Davis's regiments, whose fire greatly hindered Hall. The single gun, led by Roeder, unlimbered just east of the middle railroad cut that now harbored hordes of Davis's men. The 2nd and 42nd Mississippi charged the gun, yelling, quote, "There's a piece, let's take it," unquote. But point-blank canister fire literally blew them away. The Union infantry would soon deal with the remaining Confederates there, but with the distraction provided by Roeder's lone gun, whose stay in the railroad cut was short, 5 of 6 of Hall's battery made it single file through a gap in the fence to the relative safety of the Chambersburg Pike. The remaining horseless gun was abandoned. Hall met up with General Wadsworth as his decimated battery headed east along the Chambersburg Pike. He was ordered to take his 3 serviceable guns to Cemetery Hill and take up a position there, as the 2 damaged pieces limped along behind. But minutes after his 3 cannon unlimbered on Cemetery Hill, Hall received another order to take the remnants of his battery west, back toward Seminary Ridge. In his official report, Hall writes, quote, "I received an order from General Wadsworth to bring my guns immediately back, the officer bringing the order to show me the road to take, which was by the railroad grading leading out from town, which was swept at the time by 2 of the enemy guns from the hills beyond. Through the excavations at Seminary Hill, I was obliged to advance 1,200 yards under this raking fire," unquote. After arriving back at the east arm of McPherson Ridge, Hall wrote, quote, "I found no one to show me the position I was to occupy, and placed my battery in park under the cover of the hill, and went forward to see where to take position, when I met an aide of Wadsworth," unquote. Hall's report continued he was ordered to, quote, "go to the right along the woods, pass over the crest and over a ravine, and there take a position," unquote. The woods referred to was Shedd's Woods, along Oak Ridge, and the ravine, the swale between the eastern arm of McPherson Ridge and Oak Ridge. His official report continued, quote, I moved right until met by an orderly who informed me I was going directly into enemy lines, which were advancing from this direction." Unquote. Prudently, Hall halted his battery. Had he continued, he would have run straight into the skirmish lines of Rose's division, who had minutes earlier advanced from Oak Hill straight toward Hall's line of limbered guns. After assessing the situation, he reversed the direction of the battery and headed back toward the seminary. Once back in the fields west of the seminary, now without an assignment, Hall was free to pursue the recovery of his abandoned gun. He enlisted the aid of the 6th Wisconsin, who pulled the gun back near the Chambersburg Pike. In his report, Hall wrote, quote, "Colonel Wainwright informed me my abandoned gun was still on the field. I then took a limber and recovered the abandoned gun. I immediately moved back through the town, putting my only 3 guns, which were not disabled, in position on the left of the cemetery." Unquote. Hall's partial battery remained on the western slope of Cemetery Hill for the rest of the day. One of the disabled guns was put back into service before dawn on day 2. But after a broken axle reduced the battery back to 3 guns, Hall was relieved by Edgel's 1st New Hampshire Battery late in the afternoon on day 2 and saw no further action at Gettysburg. Hall's battery fired 635 rounds during the battle. 18 men were wounded. 4 were taken prisoner when they tried to save the disabled gun. All of the casualties were from the first day's fighting on McPherson Ridge. 28 horses were killed and 6 were wounded. The main monument to Hall's battery is located on the north side of the Chambersburg Pike, on West McPherson Ridge, between the statues of General Buford and General Reynolds. A secondary monument to the battery is on West Cemetery Hill, facing the Taneytown Road. It is situated just to the east of the Lincoln-Gettysburg Address Memorial, along the fence line at the southern end of the National Cemetery. Visit our website to register to use this app and explore anywhere, anytime on the battlefield. www.civilwaranimatedbattles.com